get started. In the meantime, while we are waiting for everyone, I just wanted to actually share some really great news that has been going on with ACCELQ. Something really cool happened. We actually won the Salesforce Demo Jam, which is a huge positive thing for us. And we want to thank all of our supporters and all of you guys that voted for us. There is a trophy, which is super exciting. So definitely a great win for ACCELQ. I think we'll go ahead and get started, Gulji. This and my CST time, it's 11:31. So we do have folks from all over the world here. So I want to say good morning, good evening, happy Friday to everyone. Before we get started, I do want to introduce Guljeet really quick. He will be our spokesperson today, and he is the product strategy at ACCELQ and our chief product officer. So Guljeet, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Ramesa. And can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely perfect.
All right, awesome. Thanks again, Ramesa. And thanks everyone for joining. Looks like we have a full house and we have a short time, so I'm going to get right to it. Pretty excited to walk you all through what's new in our 4.5 release. Even though it sounds a .5 release, it's as big as kind of a major version. There's some pretty cool and significant capabilities added in this release, right? So without further ado, let's kind of get right to it. One of the things which we are going to spend most of the time today is the branching and full-blown version control and merging, which has been added to ACCELQ 4.5 platform release, right? And this is pretty much industry's first having this level of comprehensive branching, version control, and kind of full-blown merging capability to really handle kind of a complex enterprise environment where you have a regression suite that is that's aligned with, let's suppose, your base version of the universe, right, or base version of your application, and then from there on you can kind of spin across multiple branches, right, for whether it may be for supporting releases or whether it may be for supporting kind of your sprints or what have you, right? So that's something I'm going to spend most of the time on, right? We'll walk through kind of the detailed capabilities, and like Ramesa said, feel free to post your questions in the question manager. We'll take a break and we'll be sure to answer your questions as we go along. And then we'll cover a host of other capabilities also, including multi-view recording, right? As you all kind of have played around and ACCELQ at various levels in the audience, right? Right now the view recorder needs you to kind of go and come back on ACCELQ, so that capability is significantly enhanced in the way it works now. Something pretty cool that also got added is kind of the agent selection. We'll talk more about that, and then we'll talk a lot of about some of the other capabilities that got added, right? So with that, let's kind of start with the branching and version control that got added, right? So, the branching itself, if you think about file-based and code-based merging capabilities, right, which have been around, from a programming standpoint, as ACCELQ as a platform, we've taken the same codeless philosophy and the simplicity and the intuitiveness of doing things from a design focus to basically solving complex problems, right? So that's kind of the mantra and the philosophy behind the bringing in branching also, right? And as of course, right, ACCELQ is has various entities, from your suite to your scenarios to your, that kind of make that whole design happen, right? And branching in ACCELQ was not just kind of flat file or code-based branching, right? It needed to accomplish kind of that referential integrity, that relationship, but yet give kind of a simple approach to accomplishing, at the end of the day, what you really want to accomplish, which is spin off your project branches so that you can work on releases and then kind of merge them back in your master branch, right? So that was kind of the balance that this had to bring, right? So it's from an industry standpoint, it's the first time ever any automation platform has kind of accomplished that, right? So we'll talk, I'll kind of walk you through how that aspect works. But one of the things I do want to mention is, it is a multi-level hierarchy, right? Which means you don't just branch off from a root project to child projects. You can actually have multiple levels of hierarchy depending on suiting to your process, right? So if I were to just quickly go and show an example, right? So you can really get as complex as this, right? Which means you can start with a master project, obviously with a root project, and then spin off multiple releases from there, or multiple sprints or child projects from there, and it can have a relationship which kind of goes pretty deep in terms of suiting to whatever your kind of release process or your branching process may be, right? So that's kind of at a high level. The merging itself, you'll see, like I was saying, is pretty comprehensive. It kind of takes into consideration all dependency management within the ACCELQ entities, but it also is completely two-way merging. So it's not just a child being able to merge back into the parent or the other way around, right? The merging is pretty comprehensive. So I could practically merge any project in this hierarchy, right, from any related project in my hierarchy, right? And I'm purposely showing you kind of a more complex example, right? So for all that matters, I can actually pull changes from this 5 into my P1, or the other way around, right? I could pull changes from 5 into my 10, which kind of eventually becomes my root branch or so, right? So whatever your process or governance structure you set, the technical capability will allow you to kind of go either ways, right? So that's an important point I wanted to kind of go over before we go into the demo itself. And then some of the other aspects we'll kind of walk through as I switch over. So let me do that right now. And if I didn't mention already, the branching it's true for both your automation and your manual. So it should, it'll work both from, for both automation and manual. And to be honest, with manual, this kind of takes a pretty big pain point away from the industry, right? So if you think about manual, right, in today's world, the way in manual test management this works is, it's all traditional old school kind of folder based, right? So you copy paste folders and you end up with duplicate manual test cases, and from there on you kind of work on your releases and so on, right? But from how ACCELQ has gone about it, you can create project branches even for your manual and merge them back, right? So no more duplicates and handling that, right? So the same aspect, what all I talked about in the automation world, has been translated to manual also, right? So you'll be able to create branches of your manual as well. So let's now get right to the demo. I want to be cognizant of our short time, right? So to be creating a branch, as you see when I, as I log in as a tenant admin, you'll see that you'll see basically now in your managed projects, you'll see the project branch and branch path, right? So it'll basically show you, for instance, QBank demo is a root branch, right? And it will automatically name it root branch, because once you start spinning off your branches from there, it basically starts creating branches, and then it shows you that path right there also, right? So for instance, V2 has been spun off of QBank demo, right? And then if you see release 1, that has been spun off in a further level hierarchy, right? So it kind of clearly tells you the path that release 1 has been spun off from V2, and then right, demo is kind of the root branch. So it kind of goes and shows you the full hierarchy, right? And creating a branch is really as simple. For instance, this webinar is the root branch with V2, right? Let's suppose I wanted to create another branch from this, right? So I right click on it and I say create the branch, right? So I can say, hey, you know what, this is a QBank webinar demo branch, right? And then let's say okay. So you'll see that branch starts creating, right? Obviously it's a project creation, so it kind of takes a bit of time to basically create. And that's actually brings me to a good point also, right? So these branches practically are complete project in themselves, right? So what it means is you can independently work on these projects in terms of user assignments, in terms of version control, in terms of whatever the project capabilities are, pretty much as an independent project, right? So it basically will create an independent project that can be worked on, but yet keep that relationship and keep the sanity of the differences from there on once a branch is created, right? So now QBank webinar demo is always going to have the sanity of what is being changed to its related entities and to its parent branch, right? So that's kind of how you branch things out, right? And let's go ahead and go into project configuration, right? And let's suppose I'm in my QBank demo, right? So if you remember, QBank demo was one of my root branches, right? So it says right here in my project configuration that that's my root branch, right? And I don't know, by the way, if you guys noticed, but you can now add your company logos in here so that you can kind of have customized branding, and this gets reflected in custom reports and so on. And actually there is an enhancement related to that as well that I'm going to cover, right? But let's go ahead and click on this little ellipse icon, right? And then see right here, you'll see pull changes from related project, right? And if you recall, what I was talking about was you can pull changes in a target project. So let's go through the quick nomenclature, right? So your target project is where you're going to be merging changes, and your source project is obviously the source from where you're taking those changes. So in this case, right, I'm pulling the changes back into my root branch, right? Because I had a release and now my release has merged and I did go live successfully. So I need to bring in all that release changes into my root branch, which then aligns to my production. I'm just taking an example, right? So my target project is my root branch in this case, right? It doesn't have to be. You can do you can do other ways also. You can pull changes into a child or a related project from your base project, root project also. In this case, I'm pulling it back into the root project. Let's choose a child project. So like I said, you can, in this case, parent is disabled, obviously, because there is no parent project here, right? I could pull other changes in hierarchy, but let's choose a child project like the V2, right? And let's say this is for my webinar demo, right? And let's say proceed. So you're going to see that it actually goes through the analysis and the diff between the two projects, obviously, right? And then it'll start a wizard, which basically initiates your merge process, right? So this is kind of what I was talking about. And the way the merge process works in kind of helping you through that merge for pulling in the changes is basically it goes top down from an entity standpoint, right? So you'll see if I click here on modules, it basically gives me a summary view of what are all the changes, right? And you'll see the changes are categorized into added, deleted, modified, and recovered, right? And they're pretty straightforward in terms of what they mean, right? But the way this merge process works is, remember, it's a workflow, right? So what it means is it's a workflow which takes you from entities to entity, and it takes into automatic consideration of what entities have relationship, so that it enforces certain things based on those relationship to actually make your life easier when you go through the merge process, right? And you'll see what I mean by that as I actually walk you through this merge process. But top down means it starts from the test suites, it goes on to the scenarios, actions, context, goes down to the last level of detail to elements. And remember how I was saying it's not just a flat file-based merge, right? This has a lot more intelligence into how entities are being merged. So it actually gives you that level of granularity. So let's suppose you're in a sprint and you're bringing in certain elements. So you can actually choose to bring in what elements you really need to bring in and not have certain kind of clutter, so to say, if you were working within a sprint and you didn't want to bring in those changes, right? So it gives you that level of granularity. So let's start the merge process, right? So you'll see it automatically selects the resources module, which is kind of where it starts, right? The project configuration had no changes, so it basically says no changes were and these are smart links, so you can actually link them directly also, right? And here it also gives you a filter to kind of see that only the accepted for the reviews that has been done, not reviewed, right? And in this workflow process, you won't be able to, it won't let you jump and do some merging reviews on the downstream entities. You'll have to go through a workflow because there are dependencies in place, right? So you can go through it on the right side. It shows you what the current looks like and what it'll be updated to, right? So basically what it means is that here's kind of what my target project looks like today, and here's what it'll be updated to. So and on the top you can see your what your target project is, your QBank demo project, and your source project from which you're pulling the changes is the V2 project. But here we've made it even more simpler so that you can basically see how your current looks like, and here's what it'll be updated to, right? You can just keep accepting the changes right here, right? It'll go through each one of these global properties, run properties, data list of values, right? What have you, right? So you can kind of go through the changes. You can kind of move the screen around if to kind of go through this in a more agile manner, right? As well as you can actually click here and say accept all changes. So let's suppose I'm good with the resources module. The moment I say accept all changes, or I go through all accepted, right? You see right here, this automation suites, which is my next module, gets automatically enabled, right? So if I click on the automation, the next module, you'll see up here, it changes my module to automation suites, which means it has now brought me on to the next entity, right? If we go here in the summary, in the test suites itself, right? So in the test suite, it shows that one suite, which is the smoke suite, has been modified. It actually tells me, what the information, which is the metadata of that suite that has been modified, and what are the test cases which are currently there and what it has been changed to, right? So I can again go through kind of accepting changes after I review and so on, right? Two got added, two suites got added, and one got modified, right? So I've gone through all the changes. Now I go to automation scenarios, and if you see here, here's the smart dependency that I was talking about. So if you see two new test suites got added, right? So you'll see here another drop down saying auto accepted. So what that really means is that once I've added a test suite, right, what it basically does is it auto accepts the scenarios, because it knows that if I've accepted addition of a test suite, then it needs that scenario as part of that test suite, right? Because I already accepted the upstream entity, right? So that's basically what auto accepted means. And auto recovered kind of has the same meaning, right? Which means, let's suppose I accept a deletion of a change that happened from my source to my target, right? And if I accept that deletion, but if I have accepted a test suite or another action which was needed for a scenario, then it'll basically be auto recovered. So it'll not accept that deletion if there is a dependency. So it takes care of kind of handling those aspects without you having to worry about it, right? So let's just go through this quickly. I want to be respectful of the time. So let's go through accept, right? Accept all changes, right? Let's keep going through this, right? And if I go to my actions next, right? Let's go through all added. So you'll see the actions come through. Let's take a very quick break. I'm sure there are a ton of questions with this exciting capability. Rumesa, if I can ask your help to just see if there are some quick questions I can answer.
Yes, Golji. So we do have lots of great questions that participants have submitted before. The first one is, while going through the merge process, can a change be made in real time?
Yes, that's a great question. So if you look at kind of, while I'm going through, actually that's, I can show it right here as well. So let's suppose I'm going through this this action, I'm on the action module, right? And I see this is the current and this is what it will be updated to. And I'm not too sure about what will be updated to. I really want to make a quick change before I pull it into what it is. So I can actually click, see this little arrow button right here. I can click there. It'll actually take me, open a new tab in the, for that specific action. I make that change quickly right here. I go back to my screen, right, which is right here in the merge screen, right? And then all I have to do is just say refresh right here. So if I had made a change, I can actually reflect it in real time, and I can then pull in those changes. So absolutely.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Another question we have is, can the merge be done by tenant admins only?
So again, a good question. So you can create branches as we saw as a tenant admin, but to be able to pull changes, you just need to be a project admin. So no, you can be a project admin and go through the merge process, but creating project branches is something that your tenant admin would do.
Perfect, perfect. If we have time for one more, how is merging of views handled in the process?
So again, that's great. So let me just go through this. Maybe I can show this to you in real time, right? Let's go through the context and see. Now I'm down to my context, and you'll see these keep getting blue, right, as I go through my reviews, right? So if we go back to context, let's just quickly accept all changes, right? Let's suppose I want to accept all here, right? And I go to elements, and you'll see these are the elements that got added and so on. And if you see at the bottom of the elements is kind of where the view comes in. So exactly to what you were just asking, right? So if I click here on my entities, I don't have the view really, but here it gives me ability to give some intelligence to how I want to do view merges, right? So it basically tells me, hey, you know what? Do you want just the minimum required views to be copied over to the target, right? If you don't want too much clutter, or you just want all views to be copied over. You may be working on a sprint which had way too many views. So you can actually automatically put intelligence and say, you know what? Only get me views which are absolutely needed for all the dependencies, for the actions and scenarios what I've brought in. Don't bring me all the views. And you can do the same, and same for deleted, right? So if there have been views deleted in the target because you may have optimize certain things, you can say, you know what, just delete them in the source also when I pull in, because in the target also when I pull in, because I've already cleaned the source up, right? And I want that reflection to be done in views. So yeah, you can kind of configure your view entities as well.
Perfect, perfect. Do you think we have time for one more to squeeze in, or should we get going?
Sure, let's do a quick one more and then we'll get going.
Okay, perfect. How are project configuration changes handled?
So project configuration changes for all new additions in your project configuration, may it be custom fields or environments or anything related to your project configurations, they would be brought in as part of the merge process, and all new modifications that you've done in your custom fields or those will be up for review, right? So we've kind of simplified it to put the least amount of overhead for your project configuration.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. I think we do have a few more questions, so we will go ahead and send the answers via email to make sure everybody's questions are answered, but we'll go ahead and continue with our webinar.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Ramesa. And I know I'm running a bit behind, so I'm going to speed up now. So, as you go through the complete merge process, it eventually gives you a summarize option also before really doing the merge. So you can basically see the complete information before you finally kind of go through the merge, right? So it will show you what your source project is, where it's going to get merged into, what your target is, what were the entities that you reviewed, right? And you can actually go back anytime to a module review. Just remember that workflow will reinitiate. So if I'm going to test suites, it will make you go through kind of all your entities. So as fast as I could do, I covered most of what I really wanted to share in the branching and merge. And there is a really good in-depth article that covers kind of all the details, right? In your knowledge center. We'll also do some videos to cover that as well, right? So you will be able to get that. So as you get the recordings, we'll send you the links to both the release notes as well as kind of the merging and branching support article. Yeah. So with time the time we have, let's quickly jump to the next topic. I know I'm going to rush through this, but it should be something which you guys can quickly kind of follow along, right? So if you know the way view recorder has worked in past, right? ACCELQ now has significantly enhanced how the experience of view recording works in ACCELQ. So what I mean by that is, best way to show you is to actually walk you through the new view recorder, right? So let's say I have QBank, which is my favorite app for training, right? Let's go back and let's go to ACCELQ, and now you can go into this and let's use this wizard because it will make it easier to show you what I'm talking about. Let's suppose I'm starting out a new scenario. Just ignore that I have lots of scenarios, right? So let's say it gets started. It gives me a little bit into kind of what it works. I'm just kind of showing you this wizard because it makes it easier, right? To kind of walk you through that, and then let's go next, and let's start the process, right? Let's build our first scenario. So let's say my application URL is this, right? And let's say my scenario is validate account summary, right? And let's say go. So the way this works is, let's say record views, right? And then it'll open this. So right here, you'll see the view recorder now is an inline view recorder, which means it gives me ability to, record views, multiple views in one shot, right? And it's no longer an external entity, which basically allows me, and that aspect is important because it allows me now to even work on my context and review and addition and deletion of views and validation of the view all through while I'm on my app without going back to ACCELQ, right? So let's do that. So let's say I capture new view, right? So it starts out. You'll see the icon still there. It's going to show you a little progress icon also. So see right here, enter the name of the page or a context. I don't need to go back. I can actually say, you know what, I want to create a new one, right? So I'm going to say this is a new context, right? And I'm going to say this is webinar login page, right, for QBank, right? And it says create new, so I'm just going to say create new. Let's say add view, right? I could say save and exit, or I can say, you know what, I want to capture another view, right? And see right here, now it's going through the next recording. I can actually review the view right here. I can say, you know what, this is also a new context, right? So I can say this is my account summary webinar page, right? And I'll say add view, right? And let's say save and exit now. So if you see, go back, it actually added 2 views and 2 new contexts, right? So, now I can directly start with kind of what I just created in the scenario itself, right? So if I had 10 views to be captured as part of the same process, it'll allow you. And this inline view recorder is a lot more versatile in terms of the efficiency of it and the options of it. So, it'll give you a lot of good kind of efficiency gains there. So that's an important thing that got added from an efficiency standpoint. The email reports are now really configurable. So I'll show you a quick sample of it, what I mean by that. So now if you go into basically in project configuration, see right here, where we were, right? Let's just discard this view merging process. And if I'm here in the project configuration in my notification settings, now it basically lets me configure the custom fields, the test case grid, right? My perspective. So if I show you an example of the custom report, you'll see my logo comes in here, the whole perspectives come in here, right? I can actually get the full grid. So not just the status, but the execution time, the test case type, and the perspectives of priority module, right? Whatever custom fields you added, right? You can click on individual scenarios and go right from there. So the report now is a lot more comprehensive and configurable. So you'll be able to kind of direct how your test case grid and your summary counts look like in the report, right? I'm going to keep going. We are almost there. We just have maybe a few more things to cover. So I'm going to, just keep going for a few more minutes. you're all gonna get the recording of this. So if you have to drop off, that's okay. Dynamic local agent selection. This is something pretty exciting, right? So when I click on run, right, you'll see now it gives us ability to basically choose agents from any available agent. So it's truly a dynamic agent selection, which basically will give you a lot of scalability even in your CI/CD or your or your scheduled jobs, right? So basically you'll be able to either even say any agent where you don't have to provide anything, and based on an algorithm where it kind of goes through round robin and it sees which agents available. Or if you're doing pretty matured kind of maybe spinning up Docker based agents, or you have a host of agents which are available for CI/CD, but then depending on availability you want to choose them, you can give it like a regular expression, kind of a regex pattern, and then based on the name of that agent it'll automatically go through and see which one's up and running and choose that. So that's something which will definitely help with your kind of scalability, right? You can read more about it in the release notes as well. But it's pretty straightforward to use. You can always choose any and then it'll automatically choose, or you can choose a specific agent. That's pretty much majority of what I wanted to cover. Few kind of cool additions to other additions. If you all have worked with mainframes earlier, mainframes interaction was not kind of the easiest, so to say, right? So if you remember, right, the way the object interaction worked in mainframe was you had to define elements and so, but now mainframe has the same ability to actually create terminal emulator based elements and then have them kind of housed centrally. So it obviously will bring a lot of efficiency to how you define elements and reuse them, right? As well as your action logic related to those terminal emulator logic building will become a lot more simplified. So the same advantages you had in the UI world is being translated to mainframe, and it'll keep progressing from there, right? Our CI/CD adapters used to be a little, different in terms of different technology stacks, right? In terms of the TeamCity, Bamboo, Azure DevOps, Jenkins, we support all of them, right? But we've kind of standardized on those adapters, so it is now a more kind of a common experience, and it's more kind of secured in terms of API key based, and then you have test connection, similar to remember how you had it for Jira and Azure DevOps in terms of being able to test connections and so, right? There is consistent error reporting in those adapters, so that has gone through a change. And then one of the things which I really like is, remember that Command Explorer. So let's suppose I'm trying to find something, I can't find it. If I go to the Command Explorer, now it's been made inline as part of the Help Center. So it's now kind of, not just the Command Explorer within the Help Center, but you can also find things, logic by examples, related action logic editors. So all of these have now been interconnected. So if you've been following in the last few versions, you've seen how context sensitive our help is. That has been brought to the Command Explorer also, right? So this whole Command Explorer is now significantly improved in terms of being inline and then relating back to kind of your logic and examples and so on, right? So that's kind of pretty much it. I know I went through it in a pretty express fashion, but Rumesa, if there are more questions, maybe we can, get them answered in the email.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all the exciting things that are happening with ACCELQ 4.5. We do have one more question. Can version control be used in branches, and what is the impact of checked out entities during merge?
Okay, let's take this last one, and I appreciate everyone kind of hanging in. So, if yes, you can still use version control while your projects are branched in and branched out. But the important thing to consider is if I'm pulling something into my target project, right, and that entity is checked out by me. So as you can imagine, if I've checked it out and I'm trying to bring in changes from another project, it's not going to work, but it's not going to mess things up. The merge workflow process is going to just disable accepting that change. But you could always remember that little icon which will jump you to the project. You could always go in there, check that in, and then just basically refresh so that it basically allows you to then bring in those changes. So yeah, a best practice is kind of, finish your check-in checkouts and then start the merge process. But if you forgot, it's just going to disable, and it'll kind of force you to first enable it if you wanted to accept that change.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we've covered majority of our questions. If there are any other ones that we missed, we can definitely email the answers to everyone. So that way we make sure all of the questions are answered. But I think we are out of time for today. So thank you again, Goljit. And I think we're all done.
Thanks, Rumesa, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Take care. Have a good weekend.